Here we are. Come on, guys. Let's back to the talks. Everyone attention, please. Thank you. So, my name is Nicolas. I hope I have met everyone. If not, hi. I'm from Altermundi, Argentina, and I come here to talk to you about this crazy project of us. Well, not from us, but from a lot of people around the world. That's called LibreRouter. So, first, well, you will see a lot of people around that are not going to let me lie to you, because I am a very good convincing person, but I usually say a little bit more than what I have to say. So they will try to keep me behind the line to say actually the things that I need to say. First, I just want to share with you our great joy to have these people as supporters of us. Internet Society, Frida, Fire and Seed Alliance have been very big supporters from us, not only on the funding, but also contacts, promotion, council, and every single step we give, they are there for us. So as they are for us, they can be for you too. Remember, when you want to push something related with community network, with access, with empowering people on internet, they are your allies. You can get to them, and if you don't know how to get to them, get to me. I can get you to them. Okay? So they are really cool people. Oh, and the members of this project are an amazingly big group of people. So we have Altermundi, me, Guido, Marcos, Pau, Gio. Dragino is our manufacturer and also is doing some of the design part. ICT is working on a voice over IP application that will come on the LibreServer, LibreRouter part of the project. The University of the Western Cape is coordinating the African part of the project. OpenMesh is helping, well, not OpenMesh, but Marek. We will have to put his face there instead of the OpenMesh logo, but Marek is helping us with understanding the process of building things in the physical space and designing the router. Senseleni over there, if you can see, LibreMesh is over there, but it's a mistake in my slides. I'm killing someone with light. And Billy Stelko, Steve Song is, and Terry are helping us also in the hardware part. So, what does LibreRouter means? So, LibreRouter is not a thing, but a very big amount of things. So, we have the LibreRouter, the device, we have and many other things that I will be telling you during this presentation. First, well, history. Okay, it's not there, but history is part of the LibreRouter project. So I think, just to give you a little overview, the FCC thing, we are suffering it as you're suffering it too. And it's mainly because manufacturers have not committed yet to push this conversation forward. And instead of that, they're scared and just lock down everything. So we need to have this conversation, and it's impossible if we are not manufacturers or citizens of the United States. So we have been harmed by this, and we decided to create our own router. There is more about this. The routers that we are using are not perfectly fitted for our needs. So we are using TP-Link routers for now, but they don't have two radios. They don't have, I don't know, gigabit PoE integrated. They don't have GPS for some things, and a lot of features that we want to have and they don't provide, and we can reach them. Well, now Alpha may be someone that we can reach, but we can't reach the manufacturers, so we said, let's do one for us. So here we are. So the ideas of LibreRouter is first lowering the barrier. So this is not something for us, this is something for the users. We are users, but we are not the most common users around. Thank you, Isa, for the laugh. She is showing that we are not a very common users. Thank you, Isa. We are actually talking about farmers. We are talking about your grandma. We are talking about teachers. We are talking about children. We are talking about every single user around that needs to be able to deploy their own infrastructure if they want. So what we are trying to do is to get enough intelligence inside these routers to make it as easy as possible for them to actually do it without our need, without our help. They don't need us if we put enough effort on making this this way. So cheap, because not everyone can pay for a $100 or $200 or $300 router. If we get it cheaper, we lower the barrier and we get more people involved in this movement. And well, available worldwide, this is kind of an obvious thing, but it's not. It's not easy to make something available worldwide, and we need to work on this. And community supported. So this is kind of the best context that we could be sharing this. So it is based on the experience and requirements of community networks. We have been doing this for a long time, and Altermundi, Linux, Giphy, Senseleni, all of these networks have a lot of experience in their networks, and all of that experience is inside this device and this firmware, this thing that we are creating together. And well, with these concepts, right, like making it solid. I don't know if actually that works. Solidarity it's a little translation from Spanish. Sorry about that. I don't know, but it's the opposite of egoism. So having everyone together collaborating with their own devices to share a resource that may be abundant if we manage it in a good way. So first, well, this is obvious for you. This talk was for another talk. So next slide. So first, the LibreRouter. The LibreRouter is a router for community networks that is meant to be self-deployable and geek-free. So this concept is very important because we usually create tools to make our lives easier. You know, like the open source way is like solve your own problems. Well, this is not about solving our problems necessarily. It's about solving our problems and the problems of our community too. So we are kind of the ambassadors of our community, not just of our own needs. So we need to make this so our community don't depend on us, on expanding, on maintaining, on understanding how this works and how to use it, and even to get into the software if they want to. On the hardware side, this is kind of important because it was actually difficult to get to this point, or to the point that we want to get. Okay, so this is I'm telling here kind of a tale. It's not a reality yet. It's a fairy tale that may become true in close to the end of this year. And we want you to know about this because this is being done for us, by us, and just for you to know that we have this tool. We will have this tool sooner than later. So the LibreRouter is a router that will have. I don't have the exact specs, and they will correct this on the flight because we haven't checked these things. Also, the costs, Guy, please correct them, but it has all these features that are kind of really necessary for community networks to deploy their networks. So it has all the RAM that we need, all the storage that we need, all the radios are Atheros, the CPU is Qualcomm, so it's hardware that we can trust right now. At least it's the hardware that we can trust. And it, okay, yeah, yeah, hardware that it works. Thank you, Gio. And it's weather sealed from factory. It will come from with a firmware right from the factory, so we don't have to flash anything on the devices. Hopefully, it will come localized too, so it will come with the language. There will be no language barrier for the communities to engage with the device. And well, so this is on the hardware side. Well, there was something else. Oh, it will come with an antenna from factory. It will be detachable, but it will come with an antenna, not the traditional omnidirectional antenna, but an antenna for mesh deployments. So I think it will be a patch antenna, but we're working on that. But it will be powerful enough to make reasonable links without having to mess around with antennas. That is something important for communities. So, well, this is something obvious, but we will be talking tomorrow about how this works in the inside of the device. That, you know, you know that we are doing 2-layer routing. We have layer 2, Batman Advanced, layer 3, BMX, 6 or 7, who knows, yet. For now, 6, but who knows. So that allows us to have roaming if the network fractures because a weak link disappears or an antenna gets turned or whatever. The clients can keep getting out of the network through other gateways, and you have roaming inside your community. So you walk through your village, and when you change from one IP to the other, you have the same IP, the same routing, the same everything. So everything, all the connections keep up. You have these BMX clouds that allows us to route between networks. So it's multi-village out of the box. And requires no configuration. So it will come from factory with everything set up to deploy community networks without requiring anything else to touch, but the setup that I will talk about later. So this is something important because we are not just working on the software side, we are also trying to make it easy for the communities to understand how this works and how to apply this to their realities. So we are working on concepts that are easy to grasp and give them the people the power to make their own, the device their own. So you have one device, it works like a traditional router. You have 2 devices, they mesh automatically, so they work as one router, but bigger region. If you have connectivity in one of them, everyone has connectivity. If you have connectivity from more than one, then some ones go from one, some others go through the other. Like this is obvious for you, but not for the communities, and this is important for them to understand how to use the technology. And the routing in between villages is done, or communities is done automatically. And if you get connected to a node, no matter if you use Wi-Fi, you use cable, you use another router or whatever, it's like you are in the same collision domain for us or in the same network. But these concepts are important for communities to understand how to use the technology that we provide. So I don't know what's coming. Okay, so the other thing is it would be great if you can have a mic, so if you want to interrupt, just interrupt, because I speak fast and they can't add their comments. So what we are trying to do here is not a for-profit initiative, but a for-purpose initiative. So we are not getting anything from here. This is done for common good. So this is going to be sold at cost. Right now, cost, and I want your input here, is that?
Yeah, so that figure might change a bit, but that's what we are going to, it might go a little bit up because of some changes.
Okay, more or less that.
Maybe. The thing is, we're, like, Dragino is charging us that because it's his cost, and we are going to buy like a batch, like a 200 unit batch, and that's mostly it. Like some other community, like the people in South Africa will also buy another batch and such. But then, at least until now, like the agreement is that we won't take care of commercializing them. Dragino will take care of that because that's a whole another world, another issue, and we don't want to take care of that. So,
but it's important for you if you want to participate. So this is open software, open hardware. If Alpha wants to create this, they can get the device and they can manufacture it for themselves and sell it again. But if you want to buy these devices, what we want you to, well, like what we would need to do collaboratively is to create batches. You know, like buying all together, so the manufacturer starts the machinery one time and costs much less for everyone. So this is something that I will come again later, and I would love to discuss this with you. So how to do a better approach this problem, or this opportunity.
Yeah. So Dragino is interested in keeping a stock of LibreRouters to sell himself, and at a kind of, I imagine that at a retail price, but that's different. Like if you order a batch, then you can probably get.
Yeah, you can buy to Dragino by one, or we can buy together in a bulk and make the price lower. Basically, that's the idea.
But that's not up to us. It's all decisions that Dragino is making or not. Like we are not going to keep a stock, and we are not going to manufacture more than the batches that we need.
Okay, so manufacturing costs equal selling costs in China. That's the idea. So going to the next feature and about what we are talking about in the last talk with, again, sorry, your name? Ebrin, yeah. So one of the features that we want to add because these are not yet here yet, but we hope to be here, is this first boot wizard. So right now, till now, what we have been doing for deploying community networks is we were creating a custom firmware for each device that we deploy to have the configuration that we need for that device. You know, Giphy does that. We do this. I mean, Giphy does a file that you upload to the device. Altermundi has, or Chef, LibreMesh has this other way that we create a custom firmware for the community. But this idea is to configure just the first device, and the other devices can, in the first boot, they can detect the closest devices that are part of the mesh and say, do you want me to join this network? And if yes, they fetch the configuration from the closest node and they just start. This is an idea, we need to work on this, but it's part of this idea of of having the firmware inside the device from factory and make the life easier for our users. So Pitbull, I don't know if you have seen that movie, but the guy says Pitbull, so we put it a GIF. Pitbull is the captive portal for the project. I know that the guy from Nodog Splash is around, so if he is, please raise your hand. I want to talk to you. Okay, it's not around. So we had a serious experience, bad experience, or no bad experience, but traumatic experience with Nodog Splash and support for some things that we needed. And we felt it was bloated and such, so we decided to just get the best part of this and create a custom thing for community networks. So what we are trying to do is to provide the communities for a tool to decide how they want to manage their scarce resources. Because if everything is abundant, then there's nothing to manage, and there's no need for a captive portal. But if there is a scarce resource, then the community needs to decide how to manage that resource. Do you want to share it exclusively? Do you want to share it with the ones that are not part of your network in somehow, like in a slower lane? Do you want to share it openly or just for a few minutes? Or do you want to have a voucher system to buy credit for your community, to your community, and to have access to the network for a certain period of time? All those are policies that you will be able in the future, when this exists, to set up in your routers to control the scarce resources that you have in your community. Well, the Electra's module also will be part of this project. So she's part of she's working with the Western. Sorry? Yeah, please. Please do.
Try that.
Well, let me get forward. Okay, what you see is the first prototype that I've built of a TV whitespace module. And the LibreMesh folk have asked me to include TV whitespace support for it. I'm going to make it a standalone device, so you can connect it to any Wi-Fi device. And it transverts 2.4 gigahertz baseband to VHF and UHF. So, as you wish. And I also like that the FCC and the EU and all the regulations can just fuck off. Or legalize TV whitespace in Europe. That would be something, rather than selling it off. Yeah, so anyway, it will be an external module. There will be a firmware inside. You can set the band that you want to use, and then you use it.
Thank you. Okay, well, as we want to sell this worldwide, FCC, don't fuck off. We will see how to deal with this. But it's important for us, communities, to be able to test these experimental technologies and show our regulators that there are uses for our communities that are not mainstream, that are not bothering anyone, but they are needed in certain contexts. For example, when you have two communities that are far away, that there is no TV channel around, and there is no one to bother, but they need to be connected, and there's no possible way to do a line-of-sight link, then this device allows these communities to get connected without having line-of-sight. So that's a very, very relevant and important and physical and real need that is not being fulfilled, and our regulators need to understand that they need to fit the regulations for that need of their own communities. So this device will help us give them reasons to regulate this in favor of the communities. So, part of this project will be also used to create a TV whitespace database. A TV whitespace database is an ongoing survey of how the spectrum is being used around the world or around a certain area. This is part of my project, so this I am doing. We we will be using the Atheros feature of spectrum analysis with Electra's the whitespace modem. It's okay to say it's a modem? No, it's not a modem. It's a what it is, the device? TV whitespace what?
Well, technically, it's a transverter. So it shifts down the frequency of 2.4 gigahertz to the frequency you want to use in the VHF or UHF band. And when upon transmission and upon receiving, it mixes it up to 2.4 gigahertz. And depending on the dimension of the filters, you can operate in any band that you wish between, say, 40 megahertz and 2.4 gigahertz.
Okay, thank you. Transverter then. So the TV whitespace transverter will allow the spectrum analyzer to analyze these frequencies instead of the 2.4 gigahertz frequencies, and to have a survey geolocated, because the LibreRouter will come with a GPS of how the frequencies are being used in that particular thing that is being done in this has been done as a service by Microsoft and Huawei for governments, and they are not giving away the database and the devices and such, but they are giving this as a service. And our countries are paying a lot of money to have this, so we hope to help our governments with their own TV whitespace database soon enough. Okay, I think these are not exact numbers. I think they are very accurate. No? Okay, not accurate. Okay, large volume. Okay, so it will be more expensive, but if we buy together, maybe we are close to that, and that's insanely cheap. Like, in relation to the TV whitespace modules that are around, it's ridiculously cheap. So, this is what's coming to an end. Oh, I hope so. If LibreRouter comes with the firmware inside, then we don't have to create more firmwares, or at least not for general purpose, but just for a specific purpose. But we will customize this too.
Yeah, so just one clarification is that from what we have been doing all this time with LibreMesh, the process basically started with re-flashing a router. And if we make our own hardware, we want to ship the firmware from factory. And so there is no reflashing step. And so you need to ship something default and vanilla from factory that has some smart things that he was talking about. So Jeff might continue. This customization might continue in some cases, but yeah, there is no way to plug this into the manufacturing process. It's like.
Okay, so Lime app. So this is. Remember that we are talking about that this is about the users. This is not about the power users. So this tool will be a tool for the users to do all the process of deployment and maintenance of their nodes. So imagine that you go to the ceiling and you need to align your antenna, then there is this tool that will let the users understand how good or bad is your connectivity to that to your RF link to the other node, and will also let you, well, in this case, we have a geolocation service where every node is geolocated and you can see them on the map, so you can configure that too, through the same app with the phone that everyone uses without having to have a computer close. And then we will leave the video running for a little bit so we can change screen. You can also debug why the network is going wrong, or where is the weakest link in your chain to get to the place we're trying to get. So this shows you each node that you have to step onto. There, you know. This is one node, this is the other node, this is the other node, and the bandwidth that you have and the package loss that you have. So you can see that this one is failing for some reason, and you can debug your network and go and say to your neighbor, come on guy, what did you do with your node? Did you turn it down? What did you do? And also, let's see what else comes. This is kind of a lot of suspense. Sorry, this is not prepared. So we have maintenance nodes also in each node. So if a technician in the network wants to, okay, so I can't pause this. So you can administer every single node from the same app if you have access to that device, and you can configure those nodes that were there to leave a message for the next technician or for the next users. And also you have a dashboard that will appear there in a second, where you will have the health information of your node. And we are also thinking of more ways to help the users to engage with their node and with their community and with the health of the network overall. So if you have a question, you have Marcos there. He's working actively on this part of the project. LibreServer, as I told you, this is not about a router. This is about an ecosystem of tools that helps the users deploy networks for themselves. But we couldn't be talking about community networks without talking about community services. And if we create networks that just connect people to the internet and don't give them the choice of creating their own local services, then we are fucked again. So the idea of LibreServer is to provide the users with local services that they can manage in a very simple way, to have, for example, voice over IP, to have a local portal where they can share information, they can have their classifieds, or their billboard, or whatever they want to have locally without having to have technical expertise to maintain a local server. So LibreMap is a tool that I'm sure all of your networks have, but this comes embedded with this feature comes embedded with the LibreRouter that will report to this database the position and health of the device, and will show it in a more global way to the rest of the users, just to showcase how many of us are around and how cool we are. So LibreNet 6, as some of you know, some of you don't, but it's a Tink-based VPN network. It's a peer-to-peer VPN network that allows anyone with authorization to get to the routers without to do maintenance. So if you deploy a network that don't have a technician in the network, you may ask your fellow neighbor from the closest village to get into your devices through the Tink VPN network.
Some of you might remember I presented this idea back in BattleMesh 6 in Denmark. So things have changed a bit since then, but sadly not that much. IP6 connectivity is still scarce, at least in Latin America. And yeah, what changed is that now we have some AES numbers, and we are having to deal with different prefixes being routable in different places. Like many gateways not only one source of IPs, but the idea is basically the same as I presented in BattleMesh 6.
Thank you, Gideon. So the concept is you need support. You don't have local support because you don't have a technician in your community. Then you can access another technician outside of your community through this peer-to-peer VPN technology. And that's cool because we can create a global support community of supporters of this concept, and we can collaboratively support the networks instead of having the burden to support our community and not having the chance to get out of there because we have the burden. So, concept. The power efficiency model, I think Electra has told you a little bit about that. We're talking about some of our communities don't have, so internet is not the only scarce resource around the world. Where there is no internet, usually there is no energy, there is no water, there is no proper housing, there is no many nodes around the world. And that's not an error, it's systemic. It's part of the idea. So the power efficiency model tries to fix like the lower layer that is required for the router to work. But it's much more than what Electra shared. Electra shared a little bit. I will share the other bit. So the power efficiency model that Electra shared yesterday will come with another module that will be a secondary use low bandwidth network. And low bandwidth and low power network, it's LoRa, a LoRa network that will allow the routers to turn themselves on if there is need. So you can program your routers to shut down when they are not needed, for example, during night. But if you have an emergency and you want to get in touch with someone that is far away, you can ask your router through Bluetooth, through a smart phone or a switch in the router to tell all the routers in your route to turn on to let the traffic go through the router. So this is a cool feature. And it's very useful in conditions that are in Africa, for example. The Wi-Fi calling app, this is not an animation, luckily. We're working, so the ICT company in Spain and the Rizomarica community, NGO in Mexico are working on a voice over IP application for community networks. It's based on Camaillio zip routing, but it will be super easy to use and without, I don't know if you have used any voice over IP tool, but the Android clients are very hard to use. So it will be, they are being designed with usability in mind and with ease of use, so to reduce friction. And well, we'll be around in a couple of months, hopefully. And why not LibreDocs, or I just baptized this as LibreDocs, but it's the documentation project inside LibreRouter. So you barely need knowledge to deploy these things, but you need some knowledge. And not only technical knowledge, but also how to organize yourself, how to make it sustainable, how to how to troubleshoot your network, so what are the concepts behind this? What kind of networks we want to promote? So all this information is going to be available for the communities. They are going to be shared. They will come with a router from factory in the local language for the communities to be able to engage with this without any friction. And we'll have also documentation in video for people that doesn't know how to read, because there are a lot. So, LibreRouter is yours. Make it your own, please. And if you are more than excited about this, please go to the LibreRouter.org site, click on that button that you see here there, and send us a note. Say, hi people, I love this project. Please let me know when it's out or whatever you want to tell us. We will love to share this path with you if you let us. So first things first, you have to get in touch with us. Thank you. Any questions?
Are there any plans to make them available in Europe? If there are any plans to make them available in Europe?
Okay, the idea is to make it available worldwide and be it legally for everyone to use. So yes, but
it's the same I said last BattleMesh, so in Portugal. It's the same as the TV white spaces model. It's like something, like if you have nothing to break the rules, then there is no way to make them change. So yeah, it might at some point.
So we will ensure that we make this approved by the regulators, because we can't sell it in that place, or we will be pushing people to illegality, but it will be flexible enough to use the TV whitespace model, for example. That is not legal right now, but you can use it. And if you are responsible for your behavior.
You can have legal use if you have a license, but there is no unlicensed band. And if you allow me, I would deliver a little speech. Actually, what's going on in Europe right now is that we have converted analog television to digital television. And digital television is more efficient with regards to bandwidth use. So before, we used one 8 megahertz wide channel in order to deliver one TV program. Now we can deliver several TV programs on the same bandwidth. And for that reason, now a large part of the TV band has been freed, but it's at the moment, Germany first, they have licensed it to the big telcos. So first, the so-called Digital Dividend 1 was licensed, and then the Digital Dividend 2 was licensed. And Germany was first, so the TV band in UHF, that was 470 megahertz to 863 megahertz, or 62 megahertz, is now only 470 to 690 megahertz. And the upper parts, most of it, have been licensed now for a long time to the big telcos. So what we see is like, you can consider public broadcast a public domain. It's like a public good. And it's now licensed away. And it would have been great to have another unlicensed band only for digital communication, like we have in the 5 gigahertz band, where digital communication, like mesh networks, mobile offloading of mobile phone operators that they also do in the Wi-Fi band, would be possible. And we would all benefit from that, because at the moment we're benefiting very strongly from the 2.4 gigahertz band, which is only about 80 megahertz wide. But we make a lot of use with it. And the market, or the value that it has for society, is really great. There is an estimation of 2015 that only the mobile offloading was worth like more than 80 billion euros. And so, but the resource is scarce, and at the moment it's going to be privatized and capitalized. So I tried to lobby a little bit for an unlicensed band in the UHF spectrum. But unfortunately, this is not quite easy, and I'm probably not the right person to do lobbying.
So we are doing things in the regulatory framework area, and we need more people to get involved in this part of the problem, because regulators are not easy to approach, and it's a big task in itself. So if any one of you in any country that you wants to work on this, you are welcomed, and please let us know. Is there any mic around?
What can we do to help the process? Like helping lobbying, or like invite people for this fight?
Well, more people talk to the EU, to politicians, also like companies, like big companies like Google, Facebook, whatever. They're of course interested in having access to users, and the spectrum really is very precious, and it could be very helpful, and the whole society can benefit from it. Like if we have an unlicensed spectrum in the UHF or VHF band for digital data communication, everybody could benefit. The companies, the communities, everyone. What we're at the moment seeing is like 5G is a big hype. So they're promising that high data rates will be available to everyone for relatively cheap. But I see some limitations there, and I'm not the only person that does so. And we would all be dependent on the providers selling us this service. And like companies today, for example, the German BWG, which operates the railroad system in Berlin, or the public transport system, they have the problem that they would like to offer like data services in their trains, but in order to rent the channels, they would have to pay a very high amount of money just to have access to those channels. It's like the German regulator calculates how much area you want to cover, and they multiply it with the bandwidth that you have. And even for their radio communication channels that you use for walkie-talkies and so on, it's quite a considerable amount of money. And if that is outsourced, so everybody has to buy that from telcos, it will be a pain not only for the users and the public, but also for the business. Because they cannot run their own data services, they have to rent it.
So there are other ways you can support these actions. There is not a formal working group, but there is a working group at Internet Society that we're working on pushing regulations and pushing terminology inside the legal language to help the regulators understand the needs of the communities. Because when you talk with a regulator, with your country's regulator, and you say community networks, and they say community what? So they don't understand what we are talking about, because there is no text that talks about us. So we began last year in the IGF, the Internet Governance Forum, that is a space inside the United Nations regarding the internet governance, a multi-stakeholder thingy, and we pushed seriously this topic forward, but we need to keep on doing this. So if you hear about Eurodig, that is the European equivalent that is happening right now in I don't know where. If you hear about the IGF's regional forums around the world, go there, talk about these things, also join your local chapter in Internet Society and talk about these things, because they are helping us helping our communities in getting free access or unregulated community or secondary use access to these frequencies.
So coming back to original topic, I wanted to try to connect this with the last year's talk we did. Because last year we kind of presented, like he was not there, we presented the pad and took some suggestions and everything, like presented the idea. And there has been some progress along that original idea. And also, as Nico presented, there has been a lot of new stuff being coordinated. Like the team grew from originally 4 people, let's say, to 15 people doing different things together. First, I wanted to make sure that this open mesh thing is not open mesh. It's, you said it so, but I wanted to insist on that. It's actually Marek, just Marek, and we have that clear, but we had a slight misunderstanding. I think that's a, yeah, sorry for that. So the progress so far has been making a final specification sheet and interacting with Dragino and finding out how hard it is to make hardware, even with very good small manufacturers like Dragino. And we had many surprises along the way. Marek successfully predicted most of them. Even then, we were still surprised because it's like, he was saying, like, when you tell people these things, they think that you're telling a story or that this won't happen to you. And I think that's a key takeaway. So currently, so we have a schematic already, and an engineer is working on the layout. We got news from today. But I could say that from the original estimation, we are 6 months delayed. And in the meantime, we got more funding for more different things, and it has been a big overhead coordinating those more things, which is mostly what Nico was talking about. And yeah, I believe it was so far it has been a very good experience, but I also now see, I also see now this same idea that we need more people to have this experience. So the same way that in food, earlier today, like the first step is managing your own cooking, and then managing your own planting things and growing your things. The parallel to this world would be, okay, we are all doing software and working on this, but what about the source of the hardware that we are using? Let's get into that. Let's get the shovel and see that not as easy as it seems. And yeah, that would be more or less. I would love to be able to say, we had dreams of having hardware at hand at this BattleMesh, but those were just dreams. And we hope to have them by the end of the year. We hope. We might fail, but it doesn't look like we are so close to the goal that it's, yeah.
So if we don't get to the end of the year, you will know. But we expect to have it there, okay? And we expect you to be encouraged, to be enthusiastic about that. So, is there any questions? Questions? Any questions? Thank you, Guido, by the way.
One key moment we had I was looking through the mailing list back in November, so maybe 4 months after the BattleMesh, when we had a final specification sheet that said that we were going to use Atheros 9344. This is the main change since then. 2 weeks after we said, okay, this is the final spec sheet, please make a schematic based on this. Suddenly, we get an email from Edwin, which is really, really, really a great guy. Like, he has been solving everything much better than any other manufacturer in the way that we were managing. And he said, hi, all. I wonder if someone tried to use 2 PCI interfaces for 2 radio modules in 9344. That is what we are going to use for LibreRouter, just to make sure that the concept will be okay. In the end, it was not okay. It was totally not okay. But all of us were like, we never thought about that. and things so apparently simple like this made like huge delays. And I cannot explain how, like, we took 2 weeks to confirm that this was not okay. Like, we were discussing, like, but this is not possible. I mean, like, so it's good to have this kind of experiences.
Okay, thank you, Guido. Some other thing that I haven't told you, and I feel that is relevant for this conversation, and this is also why we are trying to get to talk with the Gluon guys and with the Freyfund guys, and just all together and get to an understanding of what are our needs and see if they can fit in the same firmware. It's because the router will come with the firmware from factory. So if we manage to make this as flexible as we can to support the LibreMesh original needs and also the Gluon needs, then we can get Gluon routers just from factory and make them configurable in the first boot wizard, and that's it, you know? So,
we have a question from YouTube here. Is it going to be open source hardware and software?
of course, open source software and open source hardware. Free Libre open source software and free Libre open source hardware.
Dragino has been making this for many years. There are many open source hardware devices from this company. And yeah, so we're just building up on that.
Okay, so I encourage you to try to get in touch with us and see if your firmware fits into some way of custom way to do something to fit inside LibreMesh. So all of us can have routers that come from China, open software, open hardware, just for our communities. Any other question? No? Yeah? Okay, thank you.